Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you guys are doing well. For those of you who are new here, my name is Mishti and I love all things bookish, which is why you're probably seeing me because you also love all things bookish. So, in this video, I want to talk about some Indian literature by Indian authors, of course, that's actually really good and it's actually really profound. And this isn't just like a video where you're gonna find tokenistic recommendations because I feel like, especially on the internet, there has been such a huge discourse which just relates Indian literature to like bad, boring, or if it's like good, it's like extremely literary, it's very hard to get into. And that's just not true because in this video, I'm going to talk about some books that just have so much variety. You're going to find rom coms in this list, you're going to find feminist thrillers, you're going to find feminist mythologies, and yeah, so I'm also really excited to make this video because I feel like Indian literature is so overlooked. There are a few of our authors that are so widely acclaimed, yes, but there's also so much more to it. And you know how romance books are judged by like the worst examples and literary fiction is judged by the best examples, like when you're trying to compare it, I feel like that's also really similar in terms of Indian literature because there's so much more to the genre than like Chetan Bhagat and Durjoy Datta, and that's not to say they are like they aren't good, but the point remains to be that that's not it. That's not where the genre ends. And yeah, so spoiler alert, you're not gonna find Chetan Bhagat in this video, but and I really appreciate how they've sort of raised a whole generation and they got so many people into reading. I've met both of them and they just have such a huge wide fan base and they've gotten just like so many people into reading and just you can't just ignore that. So yeah, and without further ado, I'm just gonna move straight into the recommendations and let's go. Okay, so the first book I want to talk about is Fool Me Twice by Nona Uppal, and I'm a little biased, and that's because I am really close friends with Nona and I am so excited for her new book. It's gonna come out sometime this year. And you can consider me biased, but when I say that this is actually really good, I mean it because it just caught me off guard. I did not know about her like prior to her book coming out, and I'm so like sad about it because she's such a wonderful person. And I went in the book expecting a cute, like maybe slightly dramatic college romance, but actually it's so emotional. It's such a layered story and it talks about grief. So basically we follow Sana. She's in a long-term relationship with the perfect guy and her life seems like almost perfect from the outside, but the girl who has everything together, like she has her whole life mapped out with the perfect guy, and that's when life throws an unimaginable tragedy in her face. So the guy she was in a relationship with dies in an accident. This is not a spoiler, this is on the blurb. So yeah, anyway, so that's when her life changes and her life plummets, and that's when she finds herself dealing with something that no like school student should like experience, right? School or college student should experience. And that's when she meets Pranav. He's like the typical bookish, annoyingly charming guy who like complicates things just by existing, and he is such a wonderful character. Honestly, Sana, I get it because honestly this is also not your typical love triangle because it explores grief, healing, and just like the terrifying but beautiful idea of falling in love again after a huge loss that just sort of redefines your entire existence. And it's just so real, it's so relatable. And if I'm not wrong, Sana is also a literature student, I'm also a literature student, so honestly just feel so connected to the characters and you're so invested in the story. I think it's under 300 pages, it's not that long, and it's just so fun. You're gonna love the manta, you're gonna love the Taylor Swift references, you're gonna love the Jab We Met references, and I would highly recommend this if you're into desi romances that hit a little deeper. And this won't just give you like butterflies and banter, but it's gonna give you like actual real depth. And that's what I love about romance books and just like fiction in general because there's just so much to the plot and it's not just about one particular incident. You're gonna find so much depth in just like fiction and like romance books. So that's what I love, and I think Full Meet Twice should definitely be on your TBR. And yeah, so my copy is also signed, but for some reason I can't find my copy because I have like a huge space issue right now in my house, and I don't know where my copy is, so I can't find it. But yeah, I also have a signed copy, so yay me. The next book I want to talk about is Where Mayflies Live Forever by Anupam Mohan, and this is just the kind of book that lingers in your mind like after so long after you've read it. And this is told through 11 hauntingly intimate testimonies, and this isn't just like the main protagonist's story. It's the story of a family that gets shattered by an act of violence, and it's about the woman who like is trying so hard to find her self again, to find her pieces again. And each chapter is just so insightful, and it provides like a different perspective. It provides like a mother's pain, it provides a brother's rage, a grandmother's helplessness, and slowly you just like feel to begin the weight of grief. And it is just so wonderfully written. And so I read this like last year, and Panmac sent me the copy, and I'm so glad because otherwise I don't think I would have discovered this book, which is just which would have been really unfortunate. And yeah, you just feel the grief, you just feel the sadness in the silences. And what I really really loved was the just like the emotional brutality of the book is enough to just like hook you in and to make you think. And this book isn't just about trauma, because it's really mostly about survival and how such a loved woman is trying to find herself again and trying to live again after something really really unimaginable happens. It's not about the predator here, because it's more about how the family was influenced by it, how just like that girl is rediscovering herself. And yeah, if you just basically love books that are sort of haunting in nature, I think this book would really really be up your alley, and I would definitely recommend this book. But please do read the trigger warnings, and please do read this book, because I feel like this is one of those underrated gems that I think everybody needs to read. And it's just so insightful and it's so brilliantly done. And I think, yeah, this should be one of those books that you take from this video. So yeah, next book I want to talk about is kind of a classic. I mean, it definitely is a classic. It's Shadow Lines by Amitav Ghosh, but it just like really really deserves a spot on this list. So basically the Shadow Lines takes you through like time, memory, and the narrator of this story, he bounces back between three places. So he bounces back through Calcutta, where he spent his childhood, he bounces back to London, where he spent his student days, and the world of Dhaka. And all of this is extremely shaped by his family experiences and his personal experiences. But also what's really really fascinating is how brilliantly just like Amitav Ghosh weaves together different time periods and places, because one for a second you're in Calcutta, the next second you're in London, and it's all about how we construct our identities and how our memories, the stories we're told, and just like the histories we inherit shape who we are. And he just makes you realize how arbitrary the division of nations, culture, or even like personal identity is. And also, like, fun fact, I met Amitav Ghosh. Like, when did I meet him? I think I met him in January. So I was interning at a publishing house. I got the extremely wonderful chance to meet Amitav Ghosh in person. I got my copy signed. I got my copy of Wild Fiction, that is his new book. I got that signed. And yeah, he was just like so like humble and down to earth, and it was just like a really nice experience. So yeah, so back to the book, it leaves you just like thinking about history, love, longing, and how memory is such an extremely fragile thing. And yeah, so if you just like books that's gonna make you like pause and think and introspect a little bit, I think this is gonna be it for you. And yeah, definitely check this out. So the next book I'm gonna talk about is The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. And another fun fact, I also met Arundhati Roy last week, and I'm just like so glad. I love what I do, and I love that I am trying to make my way into publishing, because it's just such a fruitful experience. Because I was just having like a normal work from office day, and I was just like typing away on my laptop when I get to know that Arundhati Roy was in office, and I got my books. That's such a cool thing. I'm gonna show it to you. Wait, just a second. Can you see it? I'm gonna like. So it says, "For Mishti, love Arundhati Roy." So excited because honestly we were all just so starstruck when we saw her in office, because we were all just like working and we get to know that, oh, Arundhati Roy is in office. We were like, are you serious? Are you really kidding us? Because and then we just like went and met her. She was so sweet. She was just like so kind to us. She gave us time. And yeah, so I met Arundhati Roy. Yay. Anyways, so about the book. So basically, this is a book that centers on the tragic loss of innocence, but it's also so much more than just like a sad book, because it's about how like one small thing that happens can have such a huge ripple effect, and it can cause so much devastation in like its aftermath. And one level, it's about Amu, a free spirited woman whose life often mirrors like the tragic tales of like characters like Madame Bovary, let's say, about her twin children and how they navigate just like a childhood. And yeah, another level, it's about Arundhati Roy tackling really big questions like how women and men are constructed by social constructs, and how we're often really powerless in the face of like larger invisible forces. And it's like a sharp commentary on the caste system and the political movements that shape Kerala, and how you realize history and society just like influence so much of our lives, so much of our day-to-day mundane lives. And yeah, she illustrates how caste violence isn't just a social issue, it's something so deeply entrenched in our society. And yeah, it just like is one of the most powerful books I've ever read. It also won the 1997 Booker Prize. So I'm also like, I'm just so starstruck. I keep thinking about the fact that I met Arundhati Roy. It's so unreal. Okay, so the next book I want to talk about is The Palace of Illusions by Chitra Banerjee Divakurni. And my copy is lended to a friend, so I can't show it to you. But I have like a really pretty edition of Palace of Illusion. It's like the 15th anniversary edition, and basically this is the Mahabharata, but it's told through Draupadi's eyes and through Draupadi's perspective. And honestly, it's just like such a smart concept, and she just like deserves credit for actually coming up with such a innovative idea. And yeah, so Draupadi has always been like a very mysterious and a complex character even in Mahabharata, but she has never really had agency in any of her relationships, even when she was married to five brothers. And she is passed around between the brothers year after year without the freedom of choice that polygamy would typically allow, and she's portrayed as a victim. But in this particular retelling, Draupadi is anything but like a passive figure. She's fierce, independent, and really determined to shape her own destiny. And this book just like offers a really fresh perspective on Mahabharata, and it was fascinating to see the events unfold through Draupadi's eyes. And these like there were a few newish additions to the Mahabharata plot, but I think they just like gave such a emotional layer to the book, and it just like made it more universal and made the experiences of Draupadi feel a little bit more universal and relatable. If you love mythology and just like really want something that's feminist, it's accessible, I think Palace of Illusions is the one for you. And even if you aren't like a mythology lover but want to start with mythology, I think this is where you need to start. So yeah, definitely check that out. The next book I talk about is Ghajar Ghochar by Vivek Shanbhag, and this is translated by Srinath Perur. And this is a novel that just like seemed like any other story about a family, about family dynamics, and how about it's just like about their changing fortunes. But it's also so much more than that, because this is a story about how money can like really twist and turn relationships, and it can just like shake the foundation of a family. Why do like people just like keep like honking when I'm trying to record? Why does it always happen? Anyways, so the story revolves around a young man whose family is on the brink of financial ruin, and that's when like his uncle starts like a new spice company overnight. And it seemed very bizarre, because how do you like get something like that overnight? But overnight their lives are transformed, and that's when the dynamics from the and that's when the family dynamics start to unravel in like really subtle but inevitable ways, and that's when the changes and the cracks start to show up. And it just like captures how relationships begin to change, how marriages that like earlier seem very secure, that's when they start to crumble, and just like it has like a really tense atmosphere. And yeah, if you're looking for something that just like builds up gradually and something that makes you reflect on how money can change people, I think Ghajar Kochar is definitely worth picking up, because it's a small one but it really packs a punch, and it's really mighty with its themes. Next book that I think everybody who wants to explore Indian literature should read is Rosa Rita by Anita Desai. And I read Clear Light of Day by Anita Desai last year, and I just like I think this is her first book in a decade, if I'm not wrong, because it came out sometime last year. So yeah, this is again like a really small book, but again it's very mighty. It packs a punch, and it just takes you through a journey through like layers and layers of memory and identity. So basically, we follow one Indian woman named Bonita, and she goes to Mexico to learn Spanish. And one day when she was just like chilling and hanging out, that's when she meets this one woman, and that woman claims to tell her that she knows Bonita's mother, Rosarita. And according to that woman, like Rosarita came to Mexico also, and just like came to fulfill her artistic dreams. And Bonita, she's just like shocked and appalled, because that's something she had no idea about. She had no idea that that part of her mother's life ever existed. And at first, she's like really skeptical, because she can't remember her mother like ever mentioning something like this. And but Bonita just like keeps running into this other woman, and that's when she like really starts to question her own memories, and how she's like thinking if what she knows about her mother is actually true, how much of it is actually true. And that's when her curiosity about her mother's past just like spirals, and she tries to find out more about that phase of her mother's life. But also it really turns into a broader self-discovery for Bonita, and she is almost like chasing fragments of her past, and she's also trying to find answers, but she just like gets left with more questions in a way. So heart, it's just like about memory, but also about how memory is such an extremely fragile thing, and you cannot know how much of what you know is actually true. So it's just like a really thought-provoking exploration of identity, roots, and like just like the elusive nature of past and like mother-daughter dynamics. So then this is just one of those books that you guys need to read, and I went into it just like completely blind, but I was completely blown away. And this is such a wonderfully written book, and it just like has the classic Anita Desai style. It's like beautifully written, and yeah, that's the Dust Jacket. Also, just like, does anybody else really hate that they've just like stopped printing something on the inside of the Dust Jacket? Because I really hate that. Because what do you mean I'm like getting a plain uh cover? Because what is this? Like, just like give me something at least. So okay, so next up we have Tara by Koral Das Gupta. So basically this is the fifth book in the Sati series, and the Sati series is basically like a mythological retelling of women in like ancient Indian epics. And I'm gonna show you 1 second. These are the five books. It's Ahalya, Mandodari, Draupadi, Kunti, and Tara. So these are the five books in the Sati series. And personally, I really enjoyed the fifth book, which is Tara, and which is the one I'm gonna talk about. But in all honesty, the entire series is really profound, and this is just like for all of my mythology retelling fans, because this one's for you. And through this book we get to meet Tara, who isn't just like a side character in an epic, but she's such a strong empathetic woman, and we get to see her life, her journey, and how it's just like filled with so much depth. And we get to experience a glimpse of her life before like Bali, the husband, even enters the picture. And it just like unfolds as we see Bali in a new light, because he has always been portrayed in Ramayana as a villain, and that's what we've always been told. Story just like unfolds when we see Bali in a new light, because we often just like see him as a villain, because that's what we've been told, that's what the Ramayana shows. And but through this book we see him as like a devoted husband with like really sharp intellect, and just like deep love for his family. Tara was seen as a timid girl, but then we see her transform into like a powerful queen, and it just like she does all of that while never giving up her individuality. She retains that beautifully, and just like Koral Das Gupta writes so brilliantly, her prose is so lyrical and poetic, and the starting of this particular book felt a little bit slow, but once you get the hang of it, I think that's when things really start to pick up. And the best part of this book is, even if you're not completely familiar with the actual mythology aspect of the book, this just like makes it really accessible, and it's pretty enough for you to like learn about the narrative. So yeah, honestly, the entire Sati series is a highly recommended book. But if you want to pick up one, I think Tara is a really good one. So we're going to talk about is Those Pricey Thakur Girls by Anuja Chauhan, and this is such like a light comfort read of sorts. So basically, it has like five sisters. There's a dramatic patriarch and like a noisy neighborhood, just like clearly mine, because the honking just will not stop. And just like it's one of those books, it's set in Delhi, and the dialogue is like really snappy. The setting is full of nostalgia, and if like you're someone like who grew up in the 90s, I think this book would really like hit the spot for you. And yeah, it's just like a really feel good, comforting, smart, and like really desi book, and I think like people are really gonna love this. The last book that I want to talk about in this video is Wobcon's Warehouse of Words by Payal Kapadia, and honestly, I haven't seen anybody talk about this book, which is just so sad. But honestly, this is such a hidden gem because basically it's set in a world where you have to pay a price to actually speak. So you need to buy words to use them. So you basically click a button, you buy, and that's when the words you've purchased they like get packed into a box and they get shipped to you, and that's how you stay alive. And it's just like such a dystopian fantasy, and it's like a world where words are taxed, because just imagine you need to pay for every single word you say, and just imagine what would happen to the yappers of that world, because everything you want to speak, everything you want to say is like needs a certain amount, and the government controls the language. And that's when you meet a girl who decides that, oh, I'm just gonna steal the words. So she learns how to steal the words, and that concept is just like so original, because when I heard about the book I was like, oh my god, that's just like so intriguing. And it's also extremely relevant because with like our current cancel culture and like censorship and expression, and this is also a really short book, but it says so much, and it really makes you think about language, power, freedom, and really in the best possible way. And honestly, I am so glad I discovered this book because it is so underrated, and I really haven't seen anybody talk about it, and I really want more people to talk about it because it's such an exciting premise, and I don't think I've ever heard of a like concept like this, and that's just like so fresh and innovative. So that's my list of Indian books that are actually really incredible. And yes, some of these books are pretty popular and famous, but if you clicked on this video, I'm assuming that you're either a beginner who wants to try out this stuff, or you're a like prolific Indian lit reader and just wanting to find something new. So I hope you found at least one of these books that like tickled your fancy. And honestly, if you've been somebody who thinks that, oh, maybe Indian literature isn't for me, so I think you really need to give these books a try, because they might just like actually change your mind. Not might, they will change your mind, because they're actually really good. And if you've read any of these books before, do let me know in the comments how you like them, and if there are any other Indian literature books that you absolutely swear by, because obviously I could not make like an exhaustive list of books in like one particular video, so I would be happy to make a part 2. But if there are any of your Indian literature recommendations, please do drop them in the comments so all of us can also join you in the reading experience of those. And yeah, so if you like this video, please do like it, and please do subscribe if you want. Send it to your bookish friends who would like to explore English literature, and I'll see you in my next video. And happy reading, and bye. Thank you for watching.